After passing out, the wealthy heiress Seraphina woke up with a bizarre superpower. She can literally read minds. Looking at her weeping childhood crush, she suddenly heard his real thoughts broadcasting right in her head. Gross. Faking these tears is such a massive workout, he thinks. Why is Sister Seraphina not comforting me yet? Back in the day, she would completely lose her mind over my tears. I was away for 5 years. Did she actually choose Callahan? This time, I need to make her divorce Callahan immediately. Just look at this guy scheming for the family wealth. I am destined to rule Valmont City, he thought. Hearing this, Seraphina's eyes went completely wide with shock. She could not believe this was Lysander's actual inner voice. For over 10 years, he played the perfect saint who cared absolutely nothing for wealth or status. Yet here he was, secretly plotting to steal everything. This had to be a joke. Hearing voices was too absurd, probably just a weird hallucination from her head injury. But then, another thought popped up in her head. Even if she married Callahan, her heart is still totally mine. My hard work was not charity. I cannot panic now. Now that I am back, she will do whatever I say. The money, the status, the VIP life. Everything she owns is mine. Seraphina squeezed her eyes shut, bombarded by Lysander's endless, greedy stream of consciousness. No more lies. Her blood ran completely cold. What did this man actually see her as? Blinded by pure rage, Seraphina snapped her eyes open and glared viciously at Lysander. Lysander flinched under that terrifying glare. Panicking inside, he grabbed her arm and asked softly, "What is wrong, Sister Seraphina?" She stayed completely silent. Lysander panicked even more. Before he could speak again, the doctor interrupted, stating that the patient seriously needed some rest. So, family members need to leave. Right then, Beatrix Vance snatched Lysander's hand off Seraphina's arm, throwing it away in sheer disgust. While Lysander swallowed his rage, Lysander spoke up in a sweet, dripping voice, "Auntie, I want to stay and look after her." Meanwhile, my face was a picture of absolute, serene calm. I finally spoke up in, "What capacity are you staying to care for her?" "I am her legal husband. Taking care of her is my job." "What are you?" "Nobody." Sure, my plan was to divorce her and run away. But first, I had to unleash some major payback for my past life. Lysander bit his lip, staring at her with puppy eyes. Usually, when he pulled this sad puppy act, she would instantly destroy anyone who dared upset him. But this time, her face was as cold as a frozen pond. She did not even give him a glance. Clenching his shirt, Lysander forced fresh tears into his eyes. He whined out her name. But Seraphina finally spoke her very first words since waking up. "I need rest. Everyone out," she ordered. She totally ignored his pathetic act. His face went completely pale, turning white as a sheet. He could not comprehend why she was acting so freezing cold. Just hours ago before his flight, she had sounded completely desperate to see him over the phone. But right now, we can see he has absolutely no clue what is going wrong. Wiping his tears, he forced a brave, tragic smile, telling her to rest well. But inside, his mind was absolutely roaring with fury. He must have brainwashed her while I was away. I always knew that Parasite had an agenda while kissing her feet all day. What absolute garbage luck. Her husband must be me. That is my only way out of poverty. Seraphina could not handle this disgusting mental stream for another second. Gritting her teeth, she growled for him to get out. Lysander, sniffling, got up and left, trying to look lonely. Beatrix tucked her in, nagging gently. "Rest up, sweetie, your dad and I are right outside if you need anything at all." Seraphina nodded and closed her eyes. Personally, I was already planning my swift moonwalk out of the room. Just as I turned, Seraphina snapped her eyes wide open. "You stay," she demanded. I let out a sarcastic chuckle and slowly sauntered back to her bedside. With the two of us alone, and that annoying mental broadcast finally gone, Seraphina's tense body gradually relaxed. But then, the pain hit her. I asked flatly if she was hurting. She stayed dead silent. Raising an eyebrow, I plopped down in the chair beside her bed, asking if she was just too embarrassed to tell the doctor. Seraphina's eyes went sharp, practically screaming, "How on earth did I know?" I just smiled quietly, thinking to myself that we were married for 3 years, for crying out loud. How could I not tell? Her eyebrows knitted together in total confusion. 3 years of marriage? Was I talking about her? They literally just tied the knot yesterday. Asking if she wanted some water, she nodded, and I zoned out while staring at the stream. I did it. I actually faced Seraphina with total inner peace. Does this mean I can finally let go of this woman? Can I finally toss my heavy past baggage and start a new life? Honestly, thinking about it, who in this world actually dies from living without someone else? There is no such thing as immortal love. It is time to look forward. I cannot start this new life carrying any lingering feelings for Seraphina Vance. I turned off the dispenser and came back with a cotton swab. No chugging for you today. I'll just use this swab to moisturize your lips. She watched me quietly, feeling my inner thoughts were bizarre but realizing I used to love her deeply. This completely blows her mind, watch her entire world crumble. She had always believed I married her because my family was going broke and I just wanted to leech off her family power. Where was the love in that? Especially when thinking of my status-obsessed parents. A flash of disgust crossed her eyes, assuming they raised a terrible son, but reality had just slapped her squarely in the face. The guy she thought loved her was actually a manipulative gold digger, and the schemer she despised was the one who genuinely loved her. Hilarious. I sat for a moment before getting tired of seeing her face. Standing up, I told her I would call a caretaker. Her expression immediately darkened. She snapped back that she hates strangers taking care of her. I stared, wondering if the crash scrambled her brain. After a long pause, I sat back down and declared that I already promised my mom. I will look after you until you are discharged, then we divorce. Saying that word felt like a heavy backpack slipping off. My heart felt incredibly light, as if the nightmare of my past life had finally evaporated, while Seraphina sat expressionless. The mention of divorce did not trigger a single emotion on her face. I looked down, a bitter smile flashing in my eyes. I was such an idiot. In my past life, I actually thought I could melt this iceberg of a woman using pure devotion and love. A woman this freezing only has a tiny drop of love to offer anyone, and she dumped all of it on Lysander. How could there possibly be any leftovers for anyone else? In my past life, Seraphina was slowly beginning to realize something mind-bending. I had experienced a future that other people hadn't reached yet. This was so far beyond her logic, she would have called the psych ward. But right now, she felt it wasn't entirely impossible. She locked her eyes on me, saying we just got married. Divorcing now, have you thought about how the outside world will view this? I kept staring down, completely missing her complex mix of emotions. We can keep it a secret. Those secrets never stay buried forever in a place like this. What does she even mean? Shouldn't she be throwing a massive party now that I want out? After all, she despised doing things against her will. Being forced to marry me enraged her, making her despise me even more. I took a deep breath to shake off the bad memories, looking up at her in total confusion. Asking if she did not want a divorce, she looked away, claiming it was just highly inappropriate right now. It will cause too much trouble. I nodded, saying I understood, which only made her frown and ask what I understood. She wanted to know, but my mind was totally blank. She got zero answers from her eavesdropping. Go back to sleep. I stood up, promising to grab some food for her. She panicked instantly, asking where exactly I was going. Would my staying here disrupt her much-needed rest? I asked, looking genuinely surprised. She coughed and looked away, denying it. If my eyes were not lying to me, she was actually acting shy. What on earth is happening? Did a ghost possess her? Her expression instantly shifted, glaring at me with total hostility. I flinched, tilting my head in confusion. She stayed dead silent. I just sat right back down and pulled out my phone to scroll. Exhausted from her massive injuries, she drifted right back to sleep moments later. Her buried hatred still managed to prick at me like a sharp needle, making me feel incredibly annoyed. I stood up, quietly left the hospital room, and walked to the restroom. Stepping out of the room, I am not even remotely surprised to find Lysander waiting, leaning against the wall to strike first. He asks if I badmouthed him to Sister Seraphina, but as usual, he avoids looking me straight in the eye. He always acts like he is on a pedestal, looking down with pure disdain, the kind of confidence Seraphina spoon-fed him. I just toss my hair and laugh, telling him to take a wild guess, pushing Lysander to the edge. He warns me to know my place, saying Seraphina and he are childhood sweethearts and things do not need to get ugly. If Grandpa Vance had not stubbornly kept our arranged engagement active, they would have been married ages ago, but I just stare right back into his furious, glaring eyes. So what? I am the one who married her. Your jealousy is completely useless, and all you can do is watch us be affectionate. In a way, I knew her better than almost anyone else in this world, even with her icy walls. Talk about cold-blooded naturally. I knew exactly where to twist the knife to make it hurt the most. Right on cue, his breathing gets heavy, a forehead vein pops, and he growls that I have got some nerve. He asks if I really believe she will stay with me, sneering that she is utterly disgusted by my existence. Do I not know? Or am I just playing dumb? Of course I know. I realized it ages ago. We first met when we were children, and I remember thinking how someone could possibly be that beautiful in real life. I wanted to get close, but she had this freezing aura that warned everyone to stay at least 10 feet away. Terrified, I kept my distance, and we did not cross paths again until I finally finished middle school. Grandpa Vance invited me to their estate, and by that point, I already knew she was my future wife. With my teenage hormones kicking in, I fell head over heels in love with her right then and there. But I also knew she absolutely despised me. Seeing my silence, Lysander smirks triumphantly, thinking he has completely won this round. He says she is incredibly cruel to people she hates, so for my own good, I should divorce her. He warns me that I am in for a world of pain, and honestly, even though he is just manipulating me, he is not wrong. I swallow the urge to agree and just scoff, telling him not to flatter himself so much. You threw a fit and fled abroad for 5 years, but people change. Back in that room, you felt her cold attitude and started to panic, right? The exact second those words escape my mouth, Lysander turns pale. How could he not panic when she has never frozen him out like this before? Seeing his fear, I keep mocking him. Even the coldest hearts can be won over. And I have poured 5 years of solid effort into her. Why are you so confident that she thinks you are irreplaceable and will hate me forever? Lysander opens his mouth to strike back but runs completely out of ammo. Watching him suffer is a total win for me. As I turn to leave, he desperately shouts that Sister Seraphina has loved him for years and always will. I pause and look back over my shoulder, telling him I cannot wait to see how long his little delusion lasts. He clenches his fists, pale as a ghost, swearing he will force her to divorce me. I just chuckle coldly and walk away without a second glance. Standing right outside Seraphina's door, I hesitate to enter. Get this, in my past life, Lysander locked me in a mental ward with her silent blessing, driving me to jump to my death. Those two literally ruined my life. They are my absolute enemies. Now that I have been reborn, revenge is a must, but how exactly do I get it? Taking them out directly would be the easiest way, but I absolutely refuse to let these two clowns ruin my entire life all over again. Heaven did not grant me a second chance just to make dumb mistakes. Should I bankrupt her family and destroy their massive empire? An eye for an eye. Lock Lysander up in a psych ward? Even if I had the power to do that, my entire life would still revolve around hatred. Besides those paths, there is a third option, ruining the romance between Lysander and Seraphina. But just thinking about playing that long game makes me feel completely suffocated. Having to fake nice with two people I absolutely loathe every single day sounds like pure torture. Thinking it over, the smartest move is clearly to bury this grudge deep down in the dirt. I will cherish this second chance, live in total comfort, and win. Having successfully talked myself out of becoming a villain, I push the door open. Seraphina is still sound asleep, so I head to the bathroom to wash up, then flop onto the couch to catch some sleep. I barely slept a wink earlier, so this quick nap hits incredibly deep. By the time I finally opened my eyes, the world outside was pitch black. I snatched my phone to check the time, and my jaw dropped. It was 5 a.m. Did you sleep well? A soft, sweet female voice drifted into my ear. I looked up. Not bad. Seraphina didn't say another word, and silence filled the room again. Are you hungry? I'm hungry. We literally blurted it out at the exact same time. After that, a heavy silence fell between us. Feeling a flash of annoyance, I kicked off the blanket and swung my legs out of bed. I'm going to get you some food, but you are on a strict porridge-only diet right now. And once I bring it back, no complaining. I'm setting the ground rules right now. Otherwise, if I bring the food, and you throw a tantrum with that signature attitude, it's just not worth my time. Seraphina gave a subtle nod. I slipped on my shoes and headed for the door. Opening it, I saw Ara standing right by the window, and a genuine smile broke across my face. Assistant Ara. She froze for a second, then gave a slightly awkward nod. Hello, Mr. Thorne. Then it hit me. At this exact point in time, Ara and I hadn't really interacted yet. My smile slowly faded away, replaced by a massive wave of regret. Ara was Seraphina's loyal assistant. In my past life, after I married Seraphina, Ara felt sorry for me and looked out for me all the time. I was incredibly grateful and always wanted to repay her. But in this life, I probably won't even get the chance to be friends. Burying that gratitude deep down, I pointed a thumb backward. She's hungry. Ara nodded. I'll go fetch the porridge right away. Once she left, I checked my phone and saw a text from Finnegan. He asked how Seraphina was doing, and if I was okay. Finnegan had been my best brother for years. I had avoided reaching out, terrified that if I did, my entire emotional dam would burst. When you're on the edge of a breakdown, and finally face someone you can trust, you strip off your heavy armor, and become completely vulnerable. Just like right now, my nose was starting to sting. I took a deep breath and let my fingers fly over the screen. Seraphina is fine. I'm doing great too. Don't worry. I'll head to campus tomorrow and we can talk then. You're actually coming to uni? Finnegan's excitement was practically screaming through the screen, and you can't help but smile. I just smiled. Back then, I was still a medical student at Valmont University. In my past life, if I hadn't married Seraphina and dropped out at Beatrix's demand, I would have become a doctor. I would have lived a quiet, normal life, but one that actually meant something. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and leaned against the wall, completely zoning out. When Era came back and saw me lost in thought, she really hesitated to interrupt, but fearing her boss was starving, she stepped closer anyway. "Mr. Thorne, I brought the porridge." I snapped out of it, taking the thermos with a gentle smile and asking if it came from home. "Madame Vance brewed it herself," she replied. "It was sitting at the nurse's station with instructions to bring it up the second Miss Vance woke up." Ara spoke formally. "She truly treated me as Seraphina's husband. In my past life, she was the only person in the Vance household who treated me like a human being." Holding the thermos, I hesitated instead of rushing back inside. I looked at her with genuine concern, asking what time she arrived. "Around 7 p.m. last night," she replied. She had stayed up handling the accident paperwork, so I told her to go get some sleep. Surprised by my sudden warmth, Ara furrowed her brow. She felt a bit uncomfortable, but respectfully thanked me for the kind offer. But the old madam ordered her to guard this spot. No sleeping yet. Realizing my sudden kindness was probably stressing her out, I simply nodded. I told her I would head back inside, then turned and walked back into the room. The soundproofing on the door was absolute garbage. Lying in bed, Seraphina easily heard the entire exchange outside. Watch her eyes here when I walked back in. Her expression flickered, but I completely missed it. I walked over, set the thermos on the nightstand, opened it up, and poured the porridge into a bowl. I sat down in the chair, ready to feed her, but when I brought the spoon to her mouth, she locked her lips shut. I gave her a confused look. "Not eating? Did you know about this beforehand?" Her eyes darted around. I pursed my lips. "Nope." Seraphina's sharp eyes narrowed, her face instantly brewing a massive storm. I knew that exact expression all too well. I dropped the spoon back into the bowl and asked flatly, "Did she somehow fail to meet your royal standards?" Honestly, I really didn't want to serve her anymore. Seraphina opened her mouth, then snapped it shut. She realized that if she spat out her true thoughts, I would drop the bowl and walk away without looking back, until she could figure out what was going on with this past life business. She refused to let me escape her control. "Are you going to eat or what?" Seeing her sitting there in total silence was really testing my patience. Seraphina had clearly never been spoken to like that in her entire life. Her face turned a deep shade of angry purple, but she swallowed her pride and ate. She was absolutely starving, and that single bowl barely even worked as a starter. Since she wanted more, I pulled the bowl away and dryly told her she could not overeat. She was not a baby. I set the boundaries, so she just had to deal with being a little hungry. I packed the thermos, walked outside, and handed it off to Alara. Checking my watch, I saw it was already almost 6 a.m. I tucked Seraphina back in, telling her I had to head to the university. She raised an eyebrow, asking if she was just supposed to rely on the caretaker. When she asked if I would return after classes, I simply nodded. I promised Beatrix I would watch her until she got discharged, and I'd keep my word. "Go on," Seraphina muttered, closing her eyes. Before heading to campus, I needed to change. Before our wedding, I had happily moved all my stuff into our new bridal home. No matter how much I absolutely hated heading back to that heartbreaking, toxic place, I had to bite the bullet. After taking a cab to the estate gate, I walked in and was shocked to spot Valoria Thorne. I raised an eyebrow, asking if she had really stayed here this whole time without going home. She replied that she knew I would come straight here from the hospital, and that we needed to talk. I had some time before class, so I sat down. Valoria looked incredibly grim as she asked if I was actually serious about divorcing Seraphina. When I said yes, Valoria slammed her coffee cup down, asking if I was insane. With pure fury on her face, she asked if I knew how much good karma it takes to marry someone like her. I just smiled bitterly. If I had never fallen in love with her, maybe it would be. Valoria completely froze. I told her I finally understood why she always warned me never to catch feelings for Seraphina. To her, avoiding feelings while marrying a wealthy woman was a guaranteed ticket to an easy life. I gently reached out and grabbed her hand. "Your main goal was just to make sure I was financially set up and lived a completely comfortable life. Am I wrong, Mom?" Valoria's entire face stiffened up. She awkwardly pulled her hand away, but I did not let it get to me. Finding it kind of funny, I masked it with a dead serious expression. "Fine, even if Seraphina cuts off my allowance down the line, teams up with Lander to humiliate me every day, or if Lander tries to make everyone think I am a total lunatic and locks me in a psych ward to force a divorce, I guess I will just have to endure it all." "They would not dare!" Valoria's eyes practically popped out of her head. "The Thorne family might be struggling, but we still hold serious power. Besides, our families are old, close friends. How dare she treat you like that? I just laughed coldly and reminded her that Seraphina loves Lysander. A woman in love will disregard literally everything else. To hell with love. A woman's love is easily the most useless piece of trash in this entire world. Valoria sighed, quietly asking if that was actually possible. I nodded, reminding her that Seraphina has always hated me. Since she was forced to marry me to fulfill Grandpa Vance's dying wish, she probably hates my guts even more. Well, if that is really the case, Valoria paused, thinking it over for a long moment. And get this, she actually warns him that if he leaves, he will never find another wife with stats that high. Marrying someone with high stats does not guarantee a happy life anyway. Even if I stay single forever, I will make sure I am happy, I said, smiling brightly. She called it total nonsense. If you do not marry, your father and I will whatever. Valoria was always a deeply sundere mother. I only truly realized that after my rebirth. The hardships she faced in her youth gave her a very thorny armor. She refused to show any weakness, terrified that if she did, life would find a way to stab her where it hurt most. When Alistair Thorne married her, I was only 1 year old. Even with a house full of nannies, none could replace a mom. It is completely natural for a little kid to cry when they cannot find their mother. But an old maid once told me I rarely cried as a baby. Sensing a hidden truth, I kept digging, eventually finding out that before I could even form memories, Valoria had actually stayed home with me almost every single day. She raised me herself, showing everyone how deeply she adored me. But for some strange reason, she suddenly stopped showing me any affection one day. Nobody knew what triggered it. At age 4, she gave birth to Alistair's daughter, Lyra Thorne, but she was never warm to her either. In the beginning, I figured she was just naturally cold and distant. Later, I convinced myself she only valued wealth and status. But looking back at it all, if she really was that greedy, why didn't she just leave when our family investments tanked and we nearly went bankrupt? She didn't even make a single complaint back then. Even if I still don't quite get her behavior, I know she genuinely cares. Just having me and Lyra around is enough for her. Lyra actually sees things a lot clearer than you. I let out a light laugh. She warned me this marriage would end in disaster. Valoria looked totally blindsided. When did she tell you that? 2 days before the wedding, I replied. What does that little brat even know? Valoria scoffed gently. She's not even fully grown and she's already trying to meddle in our business. She needs a good reality check. I just smiled, seeing it was getting pretty late, so I stood up and squeezed her tense shoulder. One day, I will get you to a really great doctor for that painful shoulder. I'm heading upstairs to shower and then off to university. College. Valoria's eyes widened. So you're not dropping out after all. I shook my head, smiling. Honestly, if I hadn't been pushed to divorce Seraphina, I never would have left school in the first place. Valoria's expression instantly went cold as the puzzle pieces clicked. What on earth does that even mean? Dropping out was all Beatrix's doing. Just thinking about her threats makes my blood boil and look, Valoria is turning red with absolute fury. She pointed her finger directly at my face and yelled, "You absolute, spineless brat. Why didn't you tell me? I seriously thought you quit because the classes were just too hard for you. If you'd just opened your mouth, I would have stormed straight to the Vance house and demanded to know who gave that woman the right to make demands." With that, she snatched her coffee cup off the table and threw it straight at our television. The screen couldn't take the hit, instantly spiderwebbing outwards into a costly mess of absolute regret. Our mug suffered a pretty similar fate. Aunt Chen, our maid, walked in right at that moment and froze in sheer terror. Valoria spotted her from the corner of her eye and let loose a series of icy, mocking sneers. There isn't a single good soul in that entire family, so thank goodness you're leaving her with that soft, naive personality of yours. Staying with her means you'd never see a peaceful day. Now, Aunt Chen was actually a veteran worker from the Vance estate. Beatrix had sent her to us under the guise of being a highly skilled housekeeper who would manage our lives smoothly. In reality, she was basically a walking, breathing spy camera. Aunt Chen was definitely going to report every single scream back to Beatrix, and Valoria knew it, saying it all completely on purpose. My bad, I mumbled, folding my hands and hanging my head, looking exactly like I used to as a kid when I got caught. I kept quiet because I was terrified Valoria would start an all-out war with Beatrix, making my life even more of a nightmare. In my past life, I didn't realize dealing with in-laws is a completely different ballgame when your family backs you up. And believe me, Valoria's tough background made her a real fighter. Dealing with a high-class noble like Beatrix would have been a total walk in the park for her. If I had let her back me up before, my entire marriage wouldn't have been such a miserable, exhausting drag. I remember when you used to be a real troublemaker, absolutely not someone anyone would dare mess with. How did you end up such a pushover? Valoria asked, her voice softening up as she saw my sad, kicked puppy face. I kept telling you not to fall for Seraphina if you wanted a decent, comfortable life, but you'd just get mad, acting like I was trying to ruin your life. If love is so useless, does that mean you don't love your father? I looked up at her. Callahan, you are still way too young, Valoria sighed. Marriage isn't something that can survive solely on romantic feelings. In fact, love is barely a factor. Just wait until you actually marry someone yourself. Even though I went through pure hell in my past life because Seraphina and I never actually had a normal relationship, I realized I was still pretty clueless about what a real marriage takes. I finally understand all your good intentions now, I said, giving her a playful, innocent look. From now on, I will definitely listen to you. Flustered by my sudden warmth, Valoria bit her lip and immediately tried to play it cool, saying the exact opposite of how she felt. Oh please, I'm not your real mother anyway, so do whatever you want, I don't care. My smile only widened. You might not be my birth mother, but you still care so much. Who on earth cares about you? Valoria snapped, waving her hand. Just hurry up and go do whatever you need to do. I laughed, my eyes shining. All right, I'm heading up. Since I was running pretty short on time, I took a fast shower, threw on some clean clothes, grabbed my paperwork, and rushed out. Our only family driver was out of commission, completely wrecked in that same crash with Seraphina. I had to hoof it out of the wealthy villa district, just to hail a cab. Good luck with that, it is notoriously hard to catch a ride out here. After a painful wait, one finally stopped. I gave the guy my destination and immediately texted Finnegan to meet me at the campus gates. Hey kid, you a student over at Velmont Uni? The driver asked cheerfully, catching my eye in the rearview mirror. I nodded. Sophomore? Medical school? Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Going to be a doctor saving lives, what a noble profession. This guy was incredibly chatty and definitely knew how to butter a passenger up. I slipped my phone away, feeling like talking. And honestly, that random conversation turned out to be a goldmine. He casually gossiped about dropping off some insanely handsome guy right around this wealthy neighborhood very late last night. He figured the guy lived here. But once they arrived at a specific mansion, the guy said he was heading right back to the city and asked him to wait. He hopped out, rang the bell, and some fancy older gentleman stormed out, screaming his lungs out. He called him a shameless home-wrecking gold digger who loved hitting on other men's wives. The kid mumbled a quiet reply, far too soft for the driver to actually hear. Before another word could be spoken, that fancy gentleman slammed the door and walked away. Hearing this, a theory instantly sparked. I asked the driver what the guy looked like and what color clothes he had on. Based on his memory, I knew without a doubt that the homewrecker was Lysander. What on earth was he doing creeping around my neighborhood past midnight, right after getting discharged from the hospital? Honestly, think about it. What could that absolute snake possibly be planning now? I knew his playbook inside out from my previous life. Staring out the window, a cold, mocking smirk played on my lips. Sure, I couldn't easily touch Seraphina just yet, but making Lysander's life a living hell? Oh, that was entirely doable. The taxi finally pulled up to Velmont University. I paid the fare, jumped out, and instantly saw Finnegan squatting near the entrance. He wore a casual tracksuit, his hair completely messy, looking like he had just wrapped up a morning jog. The second he spotted me, he leapt up and ran over like a total lunatic, shouting, "Callahan!" I stood frozen, arms crossed defensively. Still, I completely failed to dodge his massive, suffocating bear hug. Bro, it has been 15 whole days since we last hung out. Do you know how much I missed you? I thought you got married and threw me in the trash. His messy, sweaty hair was practically glued to my face. I tried to shove him off, wheezing out that he was literally suffocating me. He just pouted, rubbing his cheek against mine, saying he did not care. This is your punishment for ghosting me for 2 weeks and banning your best friend from your wedding. My hand, hovering to push him away, completely froze. To let me marry Seraphina, Beatrix had an endless list of insane demands. Forcing me to drop out was just the start. I also had to completely cut off every single friend I had. In Beatrix's eyes, my friends were just low-class peasants, entirely unworthy of associating with Seraphina Vance's husband. Back then, I was so blinded by love that I actually agreed. I heartlessly abandoned my friends. That included Finnegan, my absolute best friend of many years. I can still see the gut-wrenching disappointment in Finnegan's eyes every single time he looked at me in my past life. So honestly, ending up completely isolated, helpless, and miserable in the end? That was entirely my own fault. Not worth attending anyway. Drowning in guilt, I stopped fighting his tight grip, even though I was suffocating. I whispered that I was divorcing Seraphina very soon, Finnegan immediately let go, totally shocked. Now watch his reaction here. I gave him a quick wink and told him she is getting served the second she leaves. He scrunched up his face, aggressively scratching his messy head. Wasn't marrying her your dream? I shrugged, admitting it used to be, but after the wedding, I realized she's nothing special. Wait, is she inadequate? My mischievous side immediately kicked in, and I pursed my lips, acting deeply conflicted and staying completely silent. Oh, you definitely need a divorce then. Finnegan shook his head, looking deeply sympathetic. Who would have actually guessed? Seraphina Vance is actually wow. Guess God really is fair. I nodded with complete solemnity, agreeing with him. Knowing his legendary massive mouth, rumors about Seraphina's secret physical flaw would spread like wildfire across the entire city within 24 hours. Call it a sweet, tiny taste of petty revenge against her. Suddenly, in an amazing mood, I slung my arm over his broad shoulder. Come on, walk with me to the registrar's office. I need to take back my withdrawal form. My new mission is to grind through the remaining 3 years of college and secure a normal life. Suddenly, he asked me why I even dropped out. Beatrix demanded it. Otherwise, I could never marry Seraphina. I spoke with absolute mockery, glancing sideways to see how he took it. Right on cue, Finnegan huffed with righteous anger. I knew it was that old hag. Why else would you drop out? I seriously don't get her problem. With stats as high as yours, what is she even dissatisfied with? High stats? Huh? I pointed to Orion Knight, the young master of the Knight family who was sketching on a chalkboard nearby. That is what Beatrix considers high stats. To her, having a powerful family background is the only metric that actually counts. Pure superficiality, Finnegan snorted, letting the subject go. But honestly, it was the brutal reality. No matter how brilliant you are, if your family background is garbage, you are just bottom-tier trash to the prestigious Vance family. Come to think of it, even if Lysander married into the Vances in his past life with Seraphina doting on him, his low-born background must have made his life a living hell. Taking constant eye rolls and bitter contempt from everyone, day in and day out, is a seriously tough pill to swallow. But honestly, thinking about his struggle made me feel way better. We finally reached the counselor's office, and just as I raised my hand to knock, the door swung wide open. The guy stepping out spotted me, his face instantly twisting in disgust as he barked, "What are you doing here? Didn't you drop out?" I nearly burst out laughing because the guy standing right in front of me was none other than Dorian Croft, Lysander's dear younger brother. Ah, Dorian, what an absolute saint. He constantly plots to steal his own brother's woman while stabbing him in the back. Truly touching. He dropped out, but he can re-enroll, right? Finnegan snapped, baring his teeth. Callahan is back, which means you're out of the spotlight again. Hurts, doesn't it? Finnegan sneered, while Dorian glared with pure venom. I wasn't talking to a loudmouth like you. Stop trying to butt into our conversation. It's just pathetic. I might be pathetic, but you're inferior to my boy Callahan in every single way possible. Throwing tantrums and plotting in the dark is what's truly pathetic. When did I ever scheme? Dorian snapped, making Finnegan sneer. Oh, you know exactly what you did. Last month in anatomy, someone slaughtered Callahan's lab rabbit. That was totally you. Pure panic flashed in Dorian's eyes as he stammered, "Stop slandering me. I would never do that. Show me the proof." It was you. Was not. Shh. I interrupted their childish bickering with a bright, sunny smile. I really don't have time for a brainless shouting match. Dorian, you're blocking the door. Mind stepping aside? Please? Dorian's eyes bulged, showing absolutely zero intention of moving. But hey, I knew this guy like the back of my hand. Ever since I got into Valmont Uni just for being Seraphina's fiancé, he made it his absolute life mission to make me miserable. If he didn't try to pick a fight with me, his skin would probably itch. Just look at him, he's absolutely dying to throw some snarky insults my way. And right on cue, the kid just couldn't keep his mouth shut. Callahan, you dropped out just to play housewife and suck up to Sister Seraphina, hoping to win her over. But look who's crawling back now. Besides, my brother just got back from overseas. I bet you'll be packing your bags for a divorce any day now. Dorian definitely knew how to deal maximum emotional damage. If he had said that to the old me, it would have completely shattered my soul. But now? Absolutely zero damage. Seriously, watch how his smug face drops when I just flash him a terrifying, toothy grin. Does spitting that venom make you feel any better? What? My completely unbothered reaction caused Dorian's brain to instantly short-circuit. You have a massive crush on Seraphina, don't you? When you talk about me staying home, sucking up to her all day, doesn't your pathetic little heart just bleed with jealousy? I reached out, grabbed his jaw, and gave it a mocking shake. Clicking my tongue, I smirked. You don't look much worse than your brother. Are you seriously not even a tiny bit bitter? Your brother is the one with the power to make Seraphina divorce me. So why can't you do it? Dorian's face completely twisted. He slapped my hand away and roared, Callahan, shut up and stop talking trash. I do not have a crush on Sister Seraphina. Oh, look at you. So desperately in love, yet too much of a coward to ever own up to it. Looks like you'll spend your whole life as a bystander, watching your brother and the woman you love get all lovey-dovey. My words weren't just brutal, they were straight up malicious. I was taking a dagger and twisting it right into his weakest, most sensitive spot. I wanted Dorian to writhe in absolute agony. I needed his twisted, obsessive delusions to bloom way earlier than they ever did in my previous life. Before I officially divorce Seraphina, I am going to make Lander's life a living nightmare. Shut up, Dorian screamed. His eyes were bloodshot, his breathing heavy like a wounded beast. You are talking absolute garbage. I just shrugged, giving him a look that said, we both know the truth. His entire mental state was in shambles. He shot me one last furious look and basically sprinted away. Wait, does Dorian actually like Seraphina? Finnegan grabbed my arm, the word gossip practically glowing on his forehead in giant neon letters. I knew he was obsessed with gossip, but this was definitely not the time to spill any tea. Signaling him to calm down, I stepped into the counselor's office, the very place that had flatly refused my withdrawal before. They only reluctantly stamped the paperwork once they realized I was completely, hopelessly stubborn about leaving. And you know they were ecstatic to have me back, since losing a top-tier medical student is a total disaster. After a quick pep talk, the counselor shooed Finnegan and me out. Once we were clear of the office, Finnegan looked at me with stars in his eyes and begged me to spill the details. He could not take it anymore, demanding to know how I knew about Dorian's secret crush. I just smirked in response. He has liked her since they were children, but unfortunately, Seraphina has only ever had eyes for his brother, Lysander. Well, until I dropped those truth bombs, he actually believed he could play the silent guardian role forever, happily watching them from the sidelines as long as his brother treated her right. How do you know all this in such detail? Finnegan was completely flabbergasted. I just smiled, kept my mouth shut. Once Finnegan processed this premium gossip, he struggled to understand why Dorian would think like that for so long before my words. But what about after? He is going to feel bitter. Competing with Lysander will suddenly look very tempting. I basically just stoked the fire of his deeply buried desires. I pulled my locker key out, spinning it on my finger with absolute delight as Finnegan finally caught on, a truly wicked grin spreading across his face. He called me as devious as ever, prompting me to raise an eyebrow at him. Finnegan bumped my shoulder with a chuckle, saying he saw a glimpse of my wild high school self, radiant and full of fire. What a shame. He lamented that I started playing the good boy the moment college started. It was so boring. My smile dimmed slightly as I remembered Alistair's mother, my grandmother from the north. Alistair used to travel up north with her frequently, staying there for months at a time. Because of that, Alistair grew up bold and wild, but his brain was never particularly sharp as he lived carelessly for years. Honestly, if he were smarter, he wouldn't have tanked the investments and ruined decades of the Thorne family's legacy. I inherited those traits, and since Alistair and Valoria expected absolutely nothing from me, I completely cut loose by the time I hit high school. Strictly speaking, back then, I got amazing grades, but the teachers still treated me like a low-key delinquent. So, why did I force myself into a good boy mold for college? Naturally, it was all because of Seraphina and Beatrix. I snapped out of my memories, muttering flatly to myself, if it wasn't for her, my past life would have been spectacular. Finnegan blinked. What did you say? He hadn't caught it. I shook my head. Nothing. From now on, I will live as my true self. I grabbed Finnegan's hand, and we skipped off to class. I am naturally brilliant, and pick up new things incredibly fast. My college entrance exam scores were absolutely through the roof. When it was time to choose a major, Valoria and Alistair told me to do whatever made me happy, so I chose medicine. Med school is absolutely brutal, and Alistair had voiced his disapproval, but I stuck to my guns without ever explaining my real reason. The real reason? The death of my biological mother. It wasn't about some grand hero complex to save families. I literally did it just to accumulate good karma for her soul. Her life was cut way too short, and I just hope she gets to live peacefully and smoothly in her next life. The morning classes absolutely flew by, and since we had the afternoon off, Finnegan begged me to go shopping with him. I told him honestly that I had to visit the hospital to look after Seraphina, so we rescheduled and I headed straight off campus. And look who we run into on her floor, Beatrix, who had just stepped out of the hospital room. She paused the moment she saw me, remarking with a highly complicated expression that I was really quite something. I looked at her, utterly confused. She sneered, reminding me that before the wedding, Seraphina absolutely despised me. Yet after just one night, she suddenly does not hate you. Am I wrong to say you are quite something? Beatrix's words were practically dripping with nasty innuendo. I furrowed my brow, choosing to stay silent. Previously, I was always an obedient lapdog around Beatrix. No matter how difficult she made things or how foul her words were, I just bowed and nodded. Even though my post-rebirth attitude was way fiercer, Beatrix definitely had not adjusted to the new me yet. Seeing me stay silent, she naturally assumed I was too scared to speak up, so she immediately pushed further. Of course, she'd say that a son raised by a home-wrecking fox is just a cheap little mutt. Since she wanted to push her luck, I was officially done babying her. Beatrix, if you are sick in the head, go see a doctor. I did not even bother calling her mom. My face was cold as ice as I told her she was technically a Vance now, yet still talked like a common street thug. Aren't you afraid of dragging down the Vance family class? Honestly, those words of yours were incredibly ugly. Beatrix never expected me to disrespect her like this, throwing her own trashy words right back in her face. She completely froze in shock. By the time she finally snapped out of it, her entire face was crimson with rage. Callahan Thorne, how dare you speak to me like that? Just because you and Seraphina are getting divorced does not mean you can just use my first name. I am your elder. You have absolutely zero manners, and you are bringing shame to your ancestors. Beatrix had always relied on her powerful background and her marriage into the prestigious Vance family. She had the personality of a spoiled brat, acting like a prickly hedgehog and stabbing anyone who got too close. Almost nobody ever dared to clash with her head-on, so the nastiest insults she could actually muster were basically elementary school level. Hearing her drag my ancestors into this, I could not hold back a laugh. Fine, calling you by your first name was my bad. How about Auntie Beatrix? Auntie, tell me, how big is the hole in your brain? Your daughter is lying in a hospital bed, and we do not even know if she has permanent brain damage. Instead of worrying about her, you are out here wasting time trying to annoy me. If you have that much free time, go play some mahjong. She screamed that I was incredibly out of line, but I just rolled my eyes, too lazy to engage. I pushed the hospital door open and yelled inside Seraphina, your mom is being completely unreasonable. I do not want to fight with her, so let the caretaker look after you. Even if you beat Beatrix to death, she never would have guessed I would pull this stunt. She was about to explode, shoving my shoulder hard. How dare you complain about me to my own daughter? Who the hell do you think you are? Seraphina, look at this piece of trash. He has zero respect for me as an elder, called me a street thug, and says I lower our class. I cannot wait another day. I am calling the Civil Affairs Bureau to come here right now. You two are divorcing immediately. Oh, fantastic. I clapped my hands in mock applause. Thank you so much. Having a mother-in-law with power and money is honestly the best. We do not even have to physically go to the bureau. So convenient. Hurry up, let us do it. One was hopelessly brain-dead for love, and the other was clearly going through raging menopause. I could not tolerate this mother-daughter duo for another second. Over on the bed, the veins on Seraphina's forehead throbbed. She was radiating a dark, terrifying aura. Countless wealthy men lined up, dreaming of marrying her. You can only imagine how she felt this ultimate prize, completely unattainable to everyone else, was being openly tossed away by me like absolute garbage. It was a massive critical hit to her giant ego. Honestly, how could she not be furious? It is best if you divorce her quietly and obediently. Beatrix pointed her finger right at my nose, eyes burning with rage, while offering a fake, plastic smile. Once I get the bureau workers here, if you change your mind and try to cling to her, I won't just ruin you. I will make sure the entire Thorne family rots. I mirrored her fake smile perfectly. Whoever backs out is a dog. Perfect. As soon as the words left her mouth, Beatrix opened her bag and grabbed her phone. Mom, I said I am the only one who decides my own marriage. Seraphina stared at the door, her eyes dark and stormy. I decide if I divorce him or not, so do not do anything unnecessary. Seraphina, why aren't you hurrying up and divorcing him while you have the chance? What are you waiting for? Beatrix just could not comprehend it. With her eyes red with frustration, a flash of impatience crossed Seraphina's face. She snapped, stay out of it. I absolutely will not. I refuse to accept this unpresentable trash as my son-in-law. Besides, haven't you always loved Lysander? He just came back to the country. So shouldn't you be dying to divorce Callahan and marry him instead? Fine, I will divorce Callahan today and get a marriage certificate with Lysander tomorrow, Seraphina said with a deadpan expression. No, Beatrix blurted it out instinctively. Her precious daughter was supposed to marry a man with elite stats and a massive background. What on earth were Callahan and Lysander? Neither could offer any real help to Seraphina's career, and they might even drag her down. Seraphina let out a cold laugh. So, her mother had always thought this way. No wonder she did that awful thing all those years ago. Since you won't let me marry Lysander doesn't do a wahang halfang. Go call Callahan inside. Seraphina, listen to your mother and stop wasting your breath. Seraphina immediately cuts her off, tone hard as ice. Beatrix glares at me with pure hatred before spinning around and storming out. I watch her leave, completely lost in thought. In my previous life, I was so hopelessly obsessed with Seraphina that I never noticed this weird family dynamic. A woman with Beatrix's fiery temper never actually stood up to her own daughter. Basically, whatever her daughter demanded, she got. Was it just motherly love, or was there something else? Beatrix is still her mom. Normally, a mother's fit would force a compromise. It is very bizarre. But here is the crazy part, she is literally hearing my entire inner monologue. Since my mind is entirely filled with her mood starts getting incredibly messy. She lets out a soft cough to grab my attention. I snap out of my daze and look up when she says to enter. I walk inside, pull up a chair by her bed, and ask why on earth she didn't just take the chance to divorce me. I'm just as confused as her mom was. It makes no sense, especially since she and Lander are totally in love with each other. She wants to marry him, and her mother can't stop her. So, I seriously don't get it. In my past life, if I hadn't clung to her like a desperate parasite, she probably would have divorced me the second Lander came back. How did we end up trapped in 3 years of miserable drama? Splitting up right after the wedding ruins the Vance Group's image, so we can't divorce anytime soon. Before my rebirth, she desperately wanted a divorce but couldn't get it. Now, I'm the one trapped dreaming of an escape. My life is a complete joke, and I cannot let this drag on. I tell her we must divorce the second she gets discharged. Rebirth is real, even if it sounds absolutely insane. You seem to forget that only our close families even showed up to our wedding. Even the media has no idea we are married because you hid it. The public thinks you're single. A quiet divorce won't hurt the company's brand. She retorts that secrets always leak, so I demand she give me a firm timeline. How long do we wait? She says at least 6 months. 6 months? Absolutely not. I can't wait that long. How long do you want then? I want it done upon discharge, but she demands 1 year. How is she haggling and raising the price on me? Let me be completely straight with you. I actually like someone else, and I'm rushing this divorce to be with them. She doesn't believe me, but why would I lie about that? If you're totally cool with me messing around with another guy while we're still married, essentially putting a green hat on your head, then fine. Let's do 6 months. She says she's fine with it. Fine with my weight. Since when did this heartless wolf suddenly find religion and turn vegetarian? Fine. If she can handle that, I've got nothing left to say. 6 months it is, but we need some ground rules first. I'm moving back home immediately. We live completely separate lives, and unless someone is literally dying, we do not meet. She agrees, and soon it's lunchtime. 10 minutes later, I walk back in with a thermos, sit down blankly, and open it. I bring a spoonful of warm porridge right up to her mouth. I don't know if my hand slipped, but wait for it, a massive glob of hot porridge spills right onto her neck. Callahan! She forces the words out from deep in her chest, desperately trying to hold back a wave of pure rage. I immediately jump up, plastering a fake look of total panic on my face. I grab a handful of tissues to wipe her neck, apologizing like crazy the whole time. I apologize, saying it was a total accident, while secretly thinking, take that, you miserable dog. I already told her I didn't want to play nurse. Since she can't move, I can do whatever I want to her. She hears my inner thoughts while watching a sticky, wet tissue get dangerously close to her face. Seraphina's face goes darker than the bottom of a wok. I quickly lie, asking if it's on her face, then apologize again, saying I thought something was there. She asks if I'm tired of living. I know the great Miss Vance is incredibly powerful, and her enemies usually disappear, but she wouldn't seriously have me killed just over some accidentally spilled breakfast porridge, right? Seraphina sneers coldly. I tell myself we will settle this when she can move, but for now, she just has to take it. I smirk right back. She glares at me with pure fury, demanding that I wipe her entire body clean. She tells me to change her clothes. I tell her I can't do that. As a healthy, hot-blooded guy, it's totally inappropriate. I offer to call someone else. This absolutely breaks her. Her normally emotionless face instantly twists with pure, explosive rage. She demands that I do it, threatening me. But before she can even finish, I'm already speed-walking right out of the hospital room. Seraphina shut her eyes. Rage boiled inside her, making every single blood vessel contract so violently she felt like she would explode any second. Back then, I always played the harmless, obedient little puppy around her and Beatrix. But looking back, I was definitely faking the whole thing. This guy is truly dangerous. Who knows how much time passed. But just as Seraphina reached her absolute limit of tolerating this sticky mess, The hospital door clicked open. "Hurry up," Seraphina demanded irritably. But a raspy voice replied, "Don't rush me, miss. Let me grab a towel first." That raspy voice from the doorway instantly made Seraphina freeze as she slowly turned her head only to see a woman in her 50s shuffling toward the bathroom. Heaven knows where I dug her up from, with her messy hair and a stained, old-school worker's uniform. Imagine getting a sponge bath from a lady like this. Honestly, Seraphina would prefer if someone just handed her a knife to end it. "Relax, miss. Mr. Thorne told me what happened, and I have total sympathy. Don't worry. I won't judge the mess. Do you know who I am?" "Who are you?" "Seraphina Vance." "Who? Oh, Cohen. You are so dead." Seraphina took a deep breath in sheer defeat, and the woman waddled right over to her. The entire process was absolute torture for Seraphina, who gritted her teeth and powered through it. By the time she was dressed in a clean hospital gown and the woman left, she immediately glared toward the door. I was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, dramatically faking a yawn the moment we made eye contact. My hired helper was good, right? Not bad. I will definitely be relying on your extremely thoughtful care. Surprisingly, she didn't look angry. She seemed totally calm, but those words, thoughtful care, sounded like they were individually ground to dust between her teeth. Seriously, if you didn't know better, you'd think she wasn't even mad. I narrow my eyes. A flash of warning hits me. She is incredibly devious. Heaven only knows what kind of brutal, painful revenge she is plotting in her mind the second she can move. Since I've already offended her, and payback is inevitable, I might as well kick her while she is down. Seraphina felt no better than a hostage. She tried to wiggle her arm, but the sudden, sharp pain made her gasp for breath. Yeah. Moving was out of the question. Recognizing this harsh reality, Seraphina licked her dry lips and asked a sudden question. "Callahan, do you still love me?" I let out a light chuckle. "What do you mean still love you? I never loved you to begin with," I answered her without a single microsecond of hesitation. And judging by my expression, there wasn't a single trace of me just saying it to be petty. Even without reading my mind, Seraphina knew for sure that I had zero feelings left for her. The realization made her eyes dim. It wasn't exactly heartbreak, but a cold, heavy sense of regret washed over her. Unnoticed by her, a remarkably sincere love had just quietly died. After a long silence, Seraphina asked in a raspy voice if she and Lander would be happy. "Probably not, I highly doubt it. Honestly, I wouldn't know. Do you need anything else?" Seraphina shakes her head. I tell her to get some sleep, walk over to the cot, kick off my shoes, and lie down. With my eyes closed, I can still feel her staring absolute holes into me, which is pretty annoying. Why does she keep staring? Is she malfunctioning? The exact second that thought crosses my mind, Seraphina snaps her head away. My furrowed brow slowly relaxes, and I quickly drift off to sleep. Hearing my breathing even out, she knows I'm asleep and looks back over. I was wearing long pants, but because I was lying down, the legs rode up a few inches, exposing my lower calves. Right now, in her eyes, those legs looked sturdy and powerful with smooth, athletic lines. Total eye candy. She'd never really looked at me before, but now? We're finally seeing her realize how incredibly handsome I am. A sharp, chiseled face, pale skin, red lips, and an extraordinary aura that made me look like a carved masterpiece, totally striking. In terms of looks, I didn't lose to Lysander Croft. Maybe her gaze was just a bit too intense, because my sleeping self actually started to feel uncomfortable. I scowled, grunted softly, and rolled over. Seraphina let out a faint smile, closing her eyes as well. Sleeping all the way until 4 p.m., I woke up to see the door wide open and felt a bit puzzled. I rolled over and saw Seraphina on the other bed, still sleeping. I sat up, put on my shoes, and quietly left the room. Spotting Era standing nearby, a smile breaks across my face. I ask when she arrived, and she replies, "Just recently." Era usually has this incredibly stiff, lifeless personality, and rarely smiles, but facing my bright greeting, she forced her mouth into an awkward grin. "The nurse mentioned we needed to open the door once in a while for ventilation, so I did." Got it. I knew I shouldn't act overly friendly with Era, so after saying my piece, I turned around to head back inside. But Era stopped me, saying she ran into young Master Lysander downstairs, and he was currently making a phone call. She wasn't sure if he would come up later. Honestly, Era had zero reason to share this warning, but maybe my genuine kindness actually got through to her stiff exterior. I froze for a moment. Then I just gave her a soft smile. "It is fine, if he comes up, he comes up. He has legs, right? Nobody can stop him." Era did not dare to be too direct, only hinting that I would end up feeling completely miserable if they met. I just shook my head with a chuckle. "No, I won't, because I am totally used to it by now." Era stayed silent, speechless. Just as I was about to reply, a cold voice rang out. It was Seraphina, complaining about being thirsty. Honestly, the timing could not be worse. I rolled my eyes, nodded to Era, and walked back inside. The icy woman on the hospital bed was glaring at me with pure hostility. I figured she was just cranky from waking up and hated the entire world, so I brushed it off. After pouring a glass of water and bringing it over, she asked if Era and I were close. Her eyes flickered. She had asked this already. Feeling pretty annoyed, I slammed the glass down and gave her a cold, flat answer. "We are not close," I said, but she sneered, claiming we sure did not look like strangers. Why was she suddenly so obsessed with whether Era and I were close? Was she really that incredibly bored? Yeah, she was definitely bored out of her mind, but this constant interrogation was getting extremely annoying. Overhearing my inner thoughts, Seraphina's face darkened even more. I had not said a single nice thing about her in my head. Listening to that nonstop was bound to make her furious. I told her we looked close because I wanted to. I plastered on a fake smile. Why would a man show goodwill to a woman? My sarcastic grin widened, dripping with pure malice. Because I have eyes on her, obviously. Did not you say you are totally fine with me cheating on you? A twisted woman like you is hard to find. So I need to take this chance to really mess with you. Since we are playing this wild game, let us push it to the limit. I am going to absolutely disgust you. The moment I said that, Seraphina's expression turned ice cold. Even though she knew I was just talking trash to make her mad, she was still genuinely furious. She glared at me with eyes so freezing and dark that it felt like staring straight into a deep abyss. I felt a sudden hit of panic as a cold shiver ran down my spine. Being the ruthless boss of a massive corporation, she naturally had the terrifying aura of a top predator. When she was angry, she did not even have to speak or show any expression to completely terrify someone. Before my rebirth, I saw exactly how she destroyed anyone who crossed her. I was absolutely terrified of her too. If she were not currently stuck in that hospital bed, my hatred and anger would never be enough to make me provoke her. "You have gotten a lot braver," Seraphina said, her lips curling into a wicked smirk. "Keep it up." I clamped my mouth shut. Should I pause my revenge plan? If she gets discharged like this, she might literally end my life before I know it. Reading my thoughts, her smirk turned incredibly mocking. Seriously, who does he think he is? Revenge against her is a total pipe dream. You must be pretty thirsty, so drink some water. I handed her the glass, trying to calm her down so she would not spend her free time plotting my murder. She smiled faintly at my sudden change of attitude. "Of course not, you are totally overthinking this," I said. Seraphina just let out a cold laugh, right as she was about to terrify me some more. The sound of hard leather shoes echoed from the hallway outside. Knowing Lysander was coming, I immediately pressed the water glass against her lips, telling her, "Darling, let me feed you some water." My sudden 180-degree attitude change made her freeze. But once Lysander walked in, she instantly realized what I was doing. Of course, she was not about to play along with my act unless she suddenly turned into a saint. She told me to get away from her with a freezing face, which was exactly what I expected. I dropped the fake smile, stood up, and sighed, saying she still hated me. Then Lysander stepped up, offering to do it instead. Lysander walked right over, grabbed the glass from my hand, and looked at Seraphina with an incredibly warm, gentle smile. Seraphina's words just gave Lysander a huge wave of relief. He figured I was only bluffing yesterday. After all, she only ever had eyes for him. She never even looked at other men. There was no way she would suddenly change her mind. Besides, a 20-year-old kid like me is completely off her radar. His panic was totally for nothing. Still, he needed to force her to divorce me as fast as possible. He had already waited way too long. There was no more time to waste. He had to marry Seraphina. If he just played the sweet, devoted lover, everything he wanted would be his. But get this, she hears every single scheme running through Lysander's mind. Looking at the man she had loved for years, her eyes filled with nothing but bone-chilling disgust and disappointment. The Lysander she thought she knew was just a carefully crafted mask. He was terrifyingly fake. Seraphina loathed lies more than anything. But Lysander's game went way beyond simple deception. The guy dreamed of marrying her, yet acted completely indifferent, playing hard to get to keep her hooked. He was treating her like an absolute fool for his own amusement. But right now, she was not drinking or speaking. She just stared at him with an icy glare, making the panic in his heart bubble right back to the surface. He asks what's wrong. But she just lowers her eyes, her long lashes fluttering slightly. She quietly says she does not want to drink, but he quickly offers to go buy her whatever she wants. Lysander blinks his big eyes, using that annoying tone you would use to coax a toddler. Seriously, does this guy have any common sense? What else is she supposed to drink besides water? Slumping onto the sofa with a lazy yawn, I mock him, saying he is lacking in the charm department. Otherwise, after your 5-year trip abroad, she would be falling all over you. She would gladly gulp down poison if you handed it to her. I basically had the words, "I am stirring the pot," written across my forehead. Pure rage flares up inside Lysander. But with Seraphina sitting right there, he forces himself to swallow it down. He says he knows I dislike him, and honestly, he can understand why. But since I am married to Seraphina now, he claims he hopes we live happily, adding that I do not need to treat him like an enemy. I ask where he gets the idea that I treat him as an enemy. Honestly, his words are hilarious. Does he even deserve to be my rival? Lysander's face twists instantly. Nobody has ever dared to talk down to him like this, especially right in front of Seraphina. Where does he think I get the nerve? Honestly, his fragile ego is entirely Seraphina's fault anyway. She spoiled him so much he developed a massive superiority complex. Put simply, he is just a dog barking behind its master's legs. Actually believing he is the king of the jungle, I do not care how he reacts though, I only want to see her response. If Seraphina loses her temper and threatens me, I will play it safe, make a tactical retreat, and avoid a direct clash. But if she just scolds me, I will double down to make sure Lysander loses sleep tonight from pure rage. Suddenly, her eyes flicker as she stares directly at me. Reading my petty little thoughts instantly, she scoffs, calling me out for talking such a big game. She asks who gave me such audacity. I think to myself, my mouth is on my face, so I speak when I want. Audacity has nothing to do with it. My attitude is insanely arrogant right now. The exact kind that makes people grind their teeth in pure frustration. Sure, speaking my mind is indeed my freedom. Lysander shoots me a wounded look and lowers his head. I just snort, telling him with total disdain that I appreciate him being so incredibly understanding. I mockingly add that I hope he is just as forgiving when I say even uglier things to him in the future. Now that Seraphina sees Lysander's true colors, she is obviously not going to defend his pathetic act anymore. She half closes her eyes, choosing to sit back, ignore the drama, and just listen to the internal chaos between the two of us. Seeing that she is not scolding me even after a long silence, Lysander finally looks up at her. But Seraphina remains completely still. Biting his lip, Lysander reaches out with a pale face and grabs her arm. He plays the victim, telling her to forget it because I am just young, immature, and naturally lash out because I dislike him. She says absolutely nothing. Fine. A wave of deep disgust spreads through her. Her dark eyes are suddenly filled with nothing but unbreakable ice. Lysander can only remember her looking at him with tenderness. When had she ever glared at him with such freezing coldness? He stares in complete disbelief, his face turning deathly pale as resentment and sorrow swirl in his eyes. Asking why she is looking at him like that, she simply says she is in a bad mood and turns away. Both of you be quiet, Seraphina snaps. Lysander bites his lip nervously, asking if she is still angry. Angry that he left for 5 years without visiting? She just tells him he is overthinking it. Seraphina was actually thrilled when you left, otherwise she wouldn't have married me and been so passionate on our wedding night. I immediately chime in, playing the absolute pest. Honestly, you have to love our main character. He cuts in right as Lysander gets romantic, completely scrambling his brain. You want a heart-to-heart? Not happening. If I let you talk today, I will change my last name. Seraphina is actually amused by this, but seeing her reaction makes Lysander's heart completely freeze over. Believing she still cares is pure delusion. Honestly, she clearly does not like him anymore. Otherwise, she would never let me strut around and assert my dominance right in front of his face. Realizing he might lose his golden ticket into the wealthy Vance family, Lysander grows frantic, clenching his fists and looking completely heartbroken. Sister Seraphina, is what he says true? I do not believe it. He must be lying, right? Lysander begs. Honestly, seeing him suffer like this feels insanely satisfying, and I spot some grapes on the table. I reach out and grab a handful. I start popping them into my mouth one by one, looking incredibly smug. I have no idea why she is being so cold to Lysander, but this is absolutely perfect for me. By the time this woman finally gets discharged from the hospital, I am going to stress Lysander out so much he loses 20 pounds. But hearing me call her this woman in my head makes Seraphina absolutely furious. She hates seeing me look so smug, so she looks up at Lysander, giving him her very first smile since they reunited. Of course, it is not true, she says, making Lysander weep tears of joy, crying that he regrets everything. He claims he deeply regrets ever going abroad, which immediately makes my expression sour. Suddenly, the grapes do not taste sweet anymore. I toss them back, stand up, and announce that I am heading to the restroom. I guess you cannot easily unlove someone she has cared about for years. He really is the one she wanted. I seriously cannot understand how she could fall for a two-faced, scheming guy like Lysander. He is a backstabbing snake with more schemes than seeds in a dragon fruit, yet she stayed devoted to him for years. Honestly, with her terrible judgment, it is a total miracle her family company has not gone completely bankrupt yet. Callahan, Seraphina yells, her voice booming with majestic fury right behind me. I stop dead in my tracks, completely bewildered, while Lysander just stares with the exact same confusion. Seraphina takes a few deep breaths to suppress the absolute inferno of rage in her chest. But she fails. Get out and use the restroom in the hallway, she roars. Since she cannot reveal her mind-reading powers, this outburst makes her look totally insane. I am completely speechless. Is she seriously throwing a massive tantrum just to defend Lysander? Is her reaction time always this slow? Her brain must have been knocked loose in that car crash. Can we just talk about how much of a complete nightmare mind-reading is for her right now? Unless she turns into a wooden mannequin, this guy is going to drive her to an early grave with pure rage. I walk out of the room, cursing her silently the entire way. Only when I get far enough that she can no longer hear my thoughts do her tense brows finally relax. Sister Seraphina, I missed you so much these 5 years. Now that the annoying obstacle of my husband is gone, Lysander tries again. But Seraphina, still in a terrible mood, only gives him a freezing stare. Being all alone abroad, I finally realized how much you protected me, and that you are the only one who can bring me true happiness. Lysander hesitates, then asks if there are any real feelings between her and Callahan. What kind of feelings? She asks, shooting him a side glance. Love, of course, he answers quickly. A married couple needs love to be truly happy, he claims, though half of what he says is complete and utter garbage. He is playing mind games, trying to reawaken the old Seraphina who once believed he was her only true soulmate. Back then, she was convinced that marrying Lysander was her only path to a happy life. I do not love him like that, she says plainly, making Lysander's face light up with pure joy. However, I am currently quite interested in him. Does that count as feelings in your eyes? No color left. The very second she says that, Lysander turns incredibly pale. Realizing Seraphina did not love him anymore was bad enough. But hearing her say it directly? That was an absolute, unacceptable nightmare. Sister Seraphina, are you serious? Lysander gasped, his voice sounding incredibly hoarse, like dry gravel. This was a massive blow. Too massive. His Seraphina, who once looked only at him, was now openly admitting her interest in another man. This felt way worse than death. Seraphina nodded, completely shattering the very last glimmer of hope inside Lysander's heart. He prayed he had misheard, or that she was acting out of spite. But no, she was dead serious. Why? Lysander sobbed, gripping the tassel on his bag tightly. Did you not? Are you trying to say I did not love you? Seraphina cut him off with a look of pure mockery. But you constantly rejected my love. Does my love even matter anymore? My interest in Callahan is none of your business, so why are you even asking? Don't you find it strange? I just did not want you to win me over too easily. I wanted to make you feel like marrying me was a privilege you had to beg for. That was the only way you would truly cherish me. Keep your heart tied to mine, and let me hold my head high. But I never expected your love to be this cheap. I went abroad, got a fancy degree, and finally returned only to find you chasing after another man. What a total mess. Lysander took a deep breath, pulling so hard on his bag's tassel that he ripped it right off to force himself to stay calm. Am I not allowed to regret my choices? Seraphina's cold gaze turned freezing. Hearing Lysander's slimy internal monologue only filled her with utter disgust for the man standing before her. He had actually been trying to control and manipulate her this entire time. What massive, greedy ambition. My harsh mental rants on the way to the restroom were absolutely correct. Her judgment in people was complete garbage. Seraphina's expression remained as flat as still water. Something she had desperately wanted in the past was now hers with a snap of her fingers. She felt nothing. Your regrets are your own business, but I am married, so my apologies. This was basically one step short of screaming we are never getting back together right in his face. Watch this, seeing years of planning go down the drain, Lysander's composure completely shattered. Seraphina, you have no heart. He wept, his face drenched in tears. Anyone seeing a grown man cry like this would feel some pity. But once she hated someone? Over. Even if they cried beautifully while looking devastatingly handsome, it could not stir a single ripple in her heart. She said nothing. It was hard to tell if she refused to reply, or just could not be bothered. Either way, it pushed Lysander right over the emotional edge. You clearly loved me so much before, why don't you love me now? Lysander sobbed, wiping his face. His accusing tone sounded like a petulant child. You huge liar. You promised you would always wait for me. Seraphina was unmoved. Looking at the clock, 15 minutes had already passed since he went to the restroom. Did he actually run away? Her eyes darkened. If that man dared to ditch her, he had better not expect any mercy. You know I am a slow burner. Plus, I was so young back then, still naive about actual feelings. But I am absolutely certain I love you now. I had already fallen for you before I even realized it myself. Lysander had no idea that Seraphina was not listening to a single word, even as he poured his heart out with dramatic dedication. I finally walked out of the restroom, after a call from Finnegan delayed my return. Reaching the door, I could hear a grown man weeping inside. I put on a bright smile and spoke up, Mr. Croft, please do not cry like that in front of my wife's hospital bed. Strangers might think she just passed away. Lysander's sobbing hitched. He slowly turned his head, glaring at me with pure, unfiltered hatred. Get a load of this, it had to be this little mutt, using dirty tricks to deceive Sister Seraphina. He must have talked serious trash behind my back. Otherwise, after loving me for years, how could she just stop caring out of nowhere? Yes, she would not just stop loving me. Sister Seraphina definitely still has deep feelings for me. I still have a chance. No way this hard work goes to waste. Hearing Lysander's thoughts made Seraphina furious. Her past love for him was nothing but the result of his cold calculation. All these years, he had been playing her like a fiddle. For someone as proud as her, this was a massive, monumental humiliation. Don't look at me like that, I am terrified. I had no clue what happened between Seraphina and Lysander while I was gone. But judging by the tense atmosphere, things had completely broken down. If I do not stir the pot now, when will I ever get a better chance? Darling, I am so scared. I run straight to the bedside, squat down, and rest my chin on the mattress, looking up at Seraphina with big, pitiful puppy eyes. Lysander is staring at me like he wants to eat me alive. But really, it is not that serious, right? All I did was steal your love and your body from him. Why is he so mad? Honestly, I am kind of grossing myself out here. Seraphina gives me a side eye, the corner of her mouth twitching just a tiny bit. With a crazy personality like mine, what did she even do to me in our past lives? Right now, Seraphina still does not understand. Falling in love with someone is basically the same as handing them your absolute weakness. If the day comes when your loved one decides to hurt you, you are the one who gave them the weapon. Without true love, who would ever give someone the easy chance to break them? Callahan Thorne, that is enough. Furious anger shoots straight to Lysander's brain. Enraged, he points right at my face, yelling that I am trying to disgust him. How so? Do not frame me, I am just stating facts. You know what is between you two, know what? I cut Lysander off, playfully sticking my tongue out, and remind him that I am only 20 this year, while you and Seraphina are 26. Back when you two were kissing, I had not even finished middle school. What could I possibly know about your past? Brother Lysander, I know you like Seraphina, and she likes you back. But we are married now. Still, if you two want to be together, it is not completely impossible. Since Seraphina does not mind me messing around with others, I cannot be stingy. I can totally allow you two to sneak around and have a little affair now and then. What kind of absolute garbage nonsense are you talking about? Seraphina, listen to the absolute trash he is saying. You are actually interested in a guy like this? Lysander roars, completely unable to believe it. I am only 20, not 26, so I am still just a boy, not some old uncle. I chuckle to myself, finding this incredibly satisfying. Keep getting mad. Go ahead and let that anger ruin your health. Whether Lysander's health was ruined remained to be seen, but he was definitely about to burst a blood vessel. He sways on his feet, grinding his teeth in pure fury. He growls my name, Callahan Thorne. What is wrong, uncle? Why are you shouting my name so passionately, brother Lysander? I blink my big innocent eyes. Compared to Lysander's explosive, angry posture, my innocent act looks way better. Even he seems to realize it. Knowing how ugly his twisted face must look, he takes a few deep breaths to force his expression back into control, before glaring viciously at me. Callahan, do you really enjoy playing the male green tea role? Playing the male green tea? I tilt my head, fully acting the part of a confused innocent, asking brother Lysander what that even means. I honestly do not get it. Lysander sneers coldly and looks down at Seraphina. Seraphina. He claims he does not get it. But you definitely understand his game, right? With her powerful family background and 1 in a million stunning looks, Seraphina was destined to always be surrounded by interested men. But she only ever had eyes for Lysander, coldly pushing away every single guy who threw himself at her, though there was one rare exception. Back in high school, a highly manipulative boy in her class actually managed to get close and win her appreciation. Once Lysander found out, he investigated the guy and realized he was just a textbook manipulative, fake innocent player. So he went straight to her to explain the whole green tea concept. Back then, Seraphina always trusted him, immediately cutting that boy off and despising that type of fake guy ever since. And honestly, you can see why Lysander thinks this is his ultimate trump card. Too bad for him, the current Seraphina is no longer the submissive girl of the past who catered to his every whim. Seraphina just glances at me, then looks back at Lysander, casually asking if I really am like that. Lysander sways, his face turning a nasty shade of green. Brother Lysander, I was only joking with you. Of course, I know what that means. But I am not playing any games, I was just acting cute. I tap my chin and flash a bright, cheeky smile, saying if I act cute for a woman who likes me, she will like me even more. It is a great deal, so why would I not? Seraphina does not like you. Lysander screams out violently. Of course, I already knew she did not like me. Even if they are fighting right now and she is giving him the cold shoulder, I am not going to bet she will play along just to spite him. Losing that gamble would be way too embarrassing. So, I think for a second and deliver an absolutely bulletproof line, proudly admitting that I am a pretty shameless person. Even if your sister Seraphina doesn't like me, I'll just pretend she does. Honestly, I'm an absolute genius. Brother Lysander, you're getting pretty old, and trying to act cute really doesn't suit you anymore. But hey, you don't have much of a choice. If you want to win my wife's affection, you should give it a shot. Even if she doesn't say it, my wife might secretly love it. Yeah, my words were total toxic garbage. Talk about maximum annoyance. Me calling her my wife over and over was making Lysander's blood absolutely boil. Anyone else would have completely lost their mind and started screaming obscenities by now. But Lysander actually had a brain, which is how he manipulated Seraphina before. He knew winning this round was totally impossible, so Lysander slowly loosened his death grip on his bag, forcing out a strained, ugly smile. Callahan, you're just too young to realize a man's charm isn't only about being cute. But that's fine. I'll make sure you learn exactly what kind of man belongs with Sister Seraphina. I just shrugged. That dismissive shrug was somehow far more infuriating than a real comeback. Terrified he might actually have a stroke from pure rage, a ghostly pale Lysander turned to look at Seraphina. Seraphina, I'm not feeling well, so I'm leaving. I'll see you tomorrow. But his words met absolute silence from the woman on the bed. In the past, even a tiny hint of him feeling sick would send Seraphina into a massive panic, treating him like a fragile baby. Whenever he got sick during his 5 years abroad, she desperately scrambled to send someone to take care of his every single need from afar. Honestly, seeing her completely indifferent like this, you just know Lysander's world is totally crumbling right now. His eyes welled with tears, but he refused to let his pride be completely dragged through the dirt. Without another word, he spun on his heel and left, feeling incredibly bitter that all his hard work for years might finally go to waste. He couldn't accept this. No, he absolutely could not give up. With his background, marrying into an elite family was nearly impossible. Seraphina Vance was his absolute last hope. So as long as there was even a tiny sliver of a chance, he had to cling to it. Otherwise, he'd be stuck as a low-status nobody forever. Seraphina quietly lowered her eyes, listening to every single one of Lysander's frantic thoughts. A look of pure mockery flashed in her eyes. His only goal was using her to climb the social ladder. How pathetic. She had thrown her pure heart to a dog for years. Well, it was getting late. I told her I was heading back because of classes tomorrow. No need to act cute anymore. The sharp angles of my face immediately shifted back to an expression of cold indifference. Honestly, with how fast you change faces, it's a total tragedy you're not in the theater. Seraphina actually smiled. She seemed to be in a great mood. Back then, she only fell for Lysander because he was so manipulative. Plus, he perfectly matched her usual type. Me? I was the absolute polar opposite of that guy. But for some weird reason, the more she looked at me now, the more attractive I seemed to her. She actually found my petty scheming cute. You can tell even Seraphina felt like she was completely losing her mind here. Was it because she heard my thoughts and knew how deeply I loved her before? She had no clue. But until she figured out exactly what I went through before this rebirth, she wasn't letting me go. If you dare to listen, I dare to sing, I said flatly. Seriously, just go ahead and try me. 30 million per show. Seraphina chuckled. Since you dared to listen, why wouldn't I dare to ask? I stood up, ready to bolt, suggesting we let the caretaker handle her tonight. But Seraphina immediately refused, terrified I'd drag another random lunatic from the psych ward into her room. Thinking about that crazy woman from earlier was still totally ruining her mood. Just as I was about to unleash a snarky comeback, Beatrix walked in. I internally screamed at my terrible luck. Seriously? I just chased away the green tea guy, and now the wicked witch is here. Even a warrior gets tired of night shifts. Seeing me holding my backpack, Beatrix asked in a hostile tone if I was finally leaving. I gave her a cold nod, saying it was late. Beatrix sneered dismissively, telling me to spare her the act. She sneered that my stepmother is probably praying I die so her son gets the entire family inheritance. If you don't know how to talk like a civilized human, you should just sew your mouth shut. The Vance family is loaded. I'm pretty sure you can afford your own needle and thread. I was just too exhausted to keep arguing. I threw the line. I walked right out. Beatrix learned her lesson from last time and didn't stop me. Once I stepped out, she rushed over to the bed and set her thermos down on the nightstand. "Sweetheart, I made you some chicken soup because that car accident really drained your body," she said, insisting she needed proper nourishment. She told her to drink extra bowls later. Seraphina just gave a tiny nod. Beatrix poured the soup, while keeping a close eye on her daughter. When she finished, she casually mentioned in a soft voice that she ran into Lysander downstairs. "His eyes were red," she said, asking if they fought. But Seraphina cut her off, knowing exactly what she was fishing for. Seraphina cut her off with a completely calm look, saying that besides Grandpa, absolutely nobody gets to dictate her marriage. When it comes to her love life, practically no one has the right to interfere or make decisions for her. Her eyes sharpened, leaving Beatrix utterly choked up and not daring to say another single word. Ultimately, she sighed in defeat, packed up, and left after making Seraphina finish 2 huge bowls of soup. "Look at this." Ara's standing guard outside, and Beatrix immediately turns back to glare at her, asking if she'd been standing there the whole time. She wanted to know what happened between those three. Beatrix leaned in, whispering directly into Ara's ear, but even though Ara's eyes flickered, she simply shook her head. Saying Boss Vance ordered her to keep her distance whenever others were inside, she claimed to know absolutely nothing. She clicked her tongue, completely annoyed. But since Ara was Seraphina's most trusted aide, she couldn't push too hard and just stomped away in a huff. As for me, I headed straight back to my family home. Over at my family home, Valoria was sitting on the couch watching television with a sheet mask on. Hearing the door open, she turned around. Spotting me, she immediately ripped the mask off her face and asked why I was back already. Clearwater Bay only has Aunt Chen, and living alone on that second floor is honestly pretty scary. Throwing my keys on the cabinet, I walked in and plopped down right next to her. Besides, living over there is nowhere near as comfortable as being right here at home. Valoria shot me a side-eye and snorted. She scoffed that even if I wanted a divorce, running back home just 2 days after the wedding would make people gossip behind my back once they found out. I honestly don't care. "Let them talk," I said, popping a fresh grape from the platter into my mouth while looking completely relaxed. Even if no other woman ever wants to marry me again, I couldn't care less. Living my entire life right here with you and Dad sounds perfect. She told me to stop talking nonsense. Valoria glared at me, clearly annoyed. She threatened to kick me out to fend for myself on the streets, but I just smiled softly. "Would you really?" She retorted that since I'm not her biological kid, she easily would. Before my rebirth, comments like that would have crushed me and made me hold a major grudge. But now? Not a single chance. I swallowed the grape and stood up, telling her she totally knew I'd return. Otherwise, she wouldn't have left a fresh bowl of grapes on the table. "Mom, you're always so relentlessly sunder. You're going to suffer for it sooner or later." Valoria let out a soft laugh, joking that her biggest regret was not kicking me out sooner, because I was a waste of good food. Chuckling, I told her I planned to keep wasting her food for a long time, so she'd better deal with it. I happily trotted upstairs as she yelled up, asking when I'd be moving my stuff back. I paused and looked back down. "Tomorrow, hire a mover for me," she yelled back, asking if she owed me a past life debt. But I knew she'd handle it. With a huge grin on my face, I continued making my way up to my room. Stepping back into my long-lost bedroom, I breathed in deep. The scent of lavender immediately filled my nose, washing away all the day's stress. Before my rebirth, I barely visited after marrying Seraphina. Yet every single time I did, my room was spotless and smelled of fresh lavender. Even when I stayed away, Valoria cleaned it regularly. I know, right? My brain must have been totally eaten by zombies back then to never realize how much she actually cared. With a soft sigh, I opened the closet to find a fresh set of pajamas neatly folded inside. I smiled, grabbed them, and headed straight into the bathroom. As my nerves finally relaxed, an overwhelming wave of pure exhaustion hit me. Worried I'd fall asleep and drown in the tub, I skipped the soak, took a quick hot shower, and got right out. Laying in bed, I sighed. This is just great. Just being 20 years old, heading to class, hanging out with friends, and living life purely to make myself happy. Is not this a million times better than chasing some girl and letting her ruin my mood 24/7? Once you have tasted real bitterness, you refuse to swallow another single drop of it. That was exactly how I felt. I rolled over, planned out my day at university tomorrow, and slowly drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Valoria was already on the phone when I walked downstairs. I did not want to interrupt, so I just eavesdropped for a second. Hearing it was the moving company, I quietly poured a glass of water. The second she hung up, I practically materialized right next to her. "Mom, you worked so hard." My mother threw me a glare. But judging by her face, she was actually in a pretty good mood. She just took the glass silently. Looking around, I walked up and started massaging her shoulders. "Mom, I really need to find a hospital for my clinical practicum. Do you happen to know anyone working in healthcare? A doctor, nurse, or anyone at all? Having connections makes life so much easier." Valoria squinted, thoroughly enjoying my shoulder massage. A few years back, when my stomach was acting up, I saw a young, incredibly skilled doctor at Tanji Hospital. I went quite a few times, so we became pretty close. We even added each other on social media and keep in touch. I can ask her for you. That is absolutely amazing. I always knew my mom had the best networking skills around here. I have completely mastered the art of dealing with Valoria. You know how it is, just butter her up, and everything is negotiable. No matter how cold she acts, faced with blatant flattery like this, she cannot be harsh. She just shot me another silent glare. After finishing a quick breakfast, I headed out to campus, leaving the house quite early. Arriving early, I texted Finnegan, but he had just woken up, so I walked straight to class. Stepping inside, I noticed our usual seats were taken by some girl. I had never seen her in class before. Walking past, I curiously glanced at her a couple of times. Suddenly, she looked up, our eyes met, and I awkwardly nodded at her. "Hello." The girl remained completely stone-faced, did not utter a single syllable, and just immediately lowered her head again. Great, now I felt like an absolute clown. I furrowed my brow. Although I was pretty annoyed, it was not worth fighting over her bad manners. So I kept my mouth shut and found a different seat further away from her. After dropping my bag down on a desk, I opened my anatomy textbook to review our last lecture. I am the type who gets intensely focused, completely blocking out the outside world. So, by the time the room started getting noisy and I finally looked up, the entire classroom was already packed. I was completely dumbfounded because I did not recognize a single soul. Can you imagine the panic? Luckily, my reaction time was fast. Within just 2 seconds, I realized I had walked into the completely wrong room. I quickly grabbed my stuff and hurried toward the door as fast as possible. Is not that Callahan Thorne from the medical department? What is he doing? Looks like the wrong room. My mouth twitched. I sped up to a near jog. Ever since starting college, I had tried my best to keep a low profile. But with top-tier grades, a decent face, and Finnegan acting as my personal hype man, it was impossible. Staying hidden was a lost cause. I practically fled the classroom in pure embarrassment. Looking back at the room number, I cursed myself out. I slept so well last night and woke up full of energy. How the hell did I manage to end up on the wrong floor? Checking my watch while running up the stairs, 2 minutes left. I sprinted. Right as the bell rang, I successfully arrived at the correct door. The professor glanced over at me. He did not say anything. He just gestured for me to sit down so he could start. I quickly spotted Finnegan and made my way over. "Bro, did not you get to campus ages ago? Why are you just showing up now?" "Do not ask," I whispered back. I walked into the wrong classroom and was too focused on reading to notice. I propped my open book up on the desk, keeping my head down in absolute frustration. Finnegan could not hold back a snicker. I glared at him, shooting him a lethal, warning look. Seeing how genuinely pissed I was, Finnegan swallowed his laughter, not daring to push it. Our whispering, however, got a bit too loud. The professor looked directly in our direction, paused his lecture, and let out a heavy cough. Every single student in the class turned to stare at us. Perfect. Now, Finnegan got to experience the joy of public humiliation with me. We both shut up and started actually listening to the lecture. Near the end of class, I caught someone walking past our window. Even though it was just a fleeting glance, I would recognize this guy even if he was burned to ashes. It was my arch nemesis, Lysander Croft. What the hell was he doing here at Valmont University? I frowned, staring out into the hallway for a while until the dismissal bell rang. I packed my bags, dragged Finnegan out of the classroom, and dropped the bombshell I just saw Lysander. My friend froze, his face a mask of absolute disbelief. He is back from abroad, but I kept it quiet yesterday. Mostly because his hyperactive brain would start spinning some wild, overcomplicated theories. And honestly, I knew he would immediately hunt Lysander down. Ever since Finnegan realized I liked Seraphina while she only had eyes for Lysander, he utterly hated that guy. Whenever they crossed paths, Finnegan would throw pretty sharp insults his way. But Seraphina always stepped in to protect her favorite, meaning my buddy never actually won. He just ended up swallowing his rage. If I gave him the green light now, Finnegan would tear the entire campus apart to hunt him down. Take it easy. Just hear me out. I grabbed his arm, patting his chest to settle him. Seraphina and Lysander had a massive fight. Last night at the hospital, I ripped into him, and she did not even blink. So, do not go rushing him just yet. No way, Finnegan snapped. You got your payback. I want mine. You remember those nasty insults he threw at me, right? He is the one who started those rumors about me being a total scumbag. He is just bitter about my family background. It eats him up that an easygoing, rich heir like me gets respect without even trying. Surprisingly, my buddy actually has pretty sharp instincts when reading people. His psychological analysis? Totally spot on. Wait, Finnegan, you are actually pretty impressive, I muttered, looking at him with real, newfound respect. I guess I totally underestimated you. I thought you were just a brainless rich kid cruising through life. Screw you, he laughed, giving me a playful slap on the shoulder. Why are you acting as annoying as Lysander? Okay, I was only joking, I laughed, grabbing his hand. If you were really that dumb, how on earth did you get into Valmont Uni? You just choose to keep things simple, and having fewer schemes is a blessing. He absolutely loved hearing that. He pouted for a second before flashing a massive, goofy grin. At least you know how to flatter me, so I reluctantly forgive your disrespect. Seeing that goofy face, I pinched his cheek. Seriously though, I want to know why Lysander is at Valmont. Help me dig around, I said. But Finnegan scanned the hallway. Why dig when we can ask directly? He passed right by here, he muttered, looking around. Hey, Flora. Come over here. A sleepy girl leaning against the wall heard us and shuffled over. What is it, Finn? Flora looked utterly exhausted, muttering she was just napping. All you do is sleep. Tell me, did you see some guy walking down the hallway right near the end of class? Any idea where he went? Flora barely opened her heavy eyelids, stared blankly for a moment, and mumbled. He had onboarding paperwork. Probably a new teacher, definitely heading down to the principal's office. Lysander came to Valmont Uni to teach? Finnegan's eyes almost popped out. I spit on him. There is no way he is qualified. Oh, he has a degree from some cheap diploma mill abroad, I scoffed. Why wouldn't they hire him? That trashy school he went to literally just requires you to throw money at them for a degree. God knows how much cash Seraphina wasted buying his way in. Now he returns and lands a gig here. He must think he is absolute hot shit. The more Finnegan ranted, the madder he got, immediately storming off toward the stairwell. He was obviously going to cause a scene in the principal's office. I grabbed him, saying, Finn, hold on. Trust me. Even if we do not go looking for him, he will absolutely come find us. Finnegan looked confused, asking how I knew. Yesterday, I completely ruined his reputation in front of Seraphina. Since he is teaching at Valmont Uni now, he is definitely going to try to regain the upper hand. Just watch how I handle this. I flashed a sly, knowing grin. I know precisely how his small mind operates. Finnegan always trusted my instincts, and seeing my complete confidence, he nodded along. Fine, I will trust you on this, he muttered. Let's just wait for him to walk right into our trap. The warning bell was about to ring, so I smiled at Flora, thanking her before we headed back to our classroom. Flora gave a lazy nod, playfully ruffled Finnegan's messy hair, and shuffled right back to her spot on the wall to sleep. Finnegan watched her, muttering that she was so weird for constantly sleeping propped against walls. He wondered if she was even actually asleep. It was either a strange quirk of hers or she was hiding something. I gave him a knowing nudge, asking if it was finally time for him to find himself a real girlfriend. Flora was a genuine eccentric and a total loner at school. At first, I had no idea why an antisocial girl like her was so close to Finnegan. But later, I learned the truth. She was actually the secret, illegitimate daughter of Ming Fan, the powerful chairman of G City's biggest faction. Ming Fan survived a horrific car wreck that took his wife and his legitimate daughter. Flora was the sole survivor. The moment Ming Fan woke up, he demanded she come to his bedside. The meaning behind that was pretty obvious. Right after, Flora started chasing Finnegan with absolute, explosive intensity. I only dropped a subtle hint. Why are you making absolutely zero sense to me? Finnegan stared like I belonged in a mental ward, repeating that he refused to swallow the bitter pill of love. He swore he would live happily as a single guy forever. Surely having someone love you forever is better than being alone, I teased. Finnegan just snorted and told me to forget it. He did not believe a woman could love anyone forever. Even in those perfect Disney stories, every prince is just copy-pasted. Really? I was pretty surprised by that weird trivia. Finnegan just rolled his eyes in response. If you do not believe me, look it up yourself, he muttered. I agreed he was the expert. Suddenly, the school bell rang. I dragged him back to class. Mid-lecture, Finnegan leaned over to whisper, asking when Lysander would show up. I told him we probably had to wait until class ended. But after this comes lunch break, Finnegan whined, ignoring my teasing look. He insisted that lunch break was strictly for eating. He was starving. The guy was a massive foodie who never missed a meal, constantly chewing on something between his classes. Depriving him of lunch was basically a war crime. Go eat then, I said. I will wait for Lysander all by myself. But he absolutely refused, demanding to know how I could ever expect him to abandon me. He sounded completely offended, acting like I had ruined his honor. I knew how he worked. Laughing, I asked if he was truly skipping lunch. The guy clearly had not thought his plan through. He wanted food, but hated leaving me. After stressing for a whole minute, his face lit up and he grabbed my arm. Since Lysander is searching for you, if we go to the cafeteria, he will just have to find us there. True, we were acting like total idiots. Grab your bag and let's go. If we are late, my favorite meals will sell out, Finnegan cried, packing aggressively. I just stared at him in silence. Going to the cafeteria did not guarantee Lysander would actually follow us. A guy so deeply obsessed with high status, always trying to look like a fancy aristocrat, would never willingly step foot inside a loud university cafeteria. Still, even if he did not show up today, I had plenty of ways to make his life miserable. A delay of a couple days did not matter. I just felt bad that Finnegan could not vent his anger today. But get this, I underestimated how bad I pissed him off yesterday. Seeing Lysander walk into the cafeteria with another female teacher actually caught me off guard for a second. Then I realized he was so blindingly furious he was willing to lower his standards just to hunt me down for revenge. I bit my chopsticks, my eyes narrowing into a very satisfied smile. Telling Finnegan to look who just arrived did nothing. He was way too busy inhaling his food to listen. Only when Lysander marched right up to our table did he look up, not even registering it at first. Then he double-took, eyes bulging. Lysander smiled with forced elegance, telling us it had been a long time. He looked pristine in a brand new Armani suit, sporting a rare, limited edition watch you could not buy even with all the cash in the world. Honestly, looking at him, you would swear he was some elite heir from a crazy wealthy family. Well, if it isn't Master Croft, the guy sponsored by a rich woman? With your incredibly supreme status, stepping foot in a place like this must contaminate your pure soul. Finnegan slammed his chopsticks down, instantly abandoning his food and activating full attack mode. Lysander always hated Finnegan even more than me, especially when my buddy put on his arrogant rich kid face and dropped razor-sharp insults. While a soft knife hurts, a hard blade is lethal. Every single time they clashed, Lysander was left with his ego completely riddled with holes. His face darkened significantly as he rushed to avenge the humiliation he suffered yesterday. He had completely forgotten that Finnegan would be sitting right here. Without Seraphina around, this hungry foodie was his ultimate kryptonite. The female teacher beside him heard this and gave him a very strange look. Lysander glared sternly, demanding he wash his mouth out before he sued him for severe character defamation. He was really playing the role of a strict teacher disciplining his student. Finnegan just sneered, "Sue me." People who studied abroad really are built different. They speak with so much confidence now. Though in his case, it's confidence mixed with total amnesia. Doesn't that make my wife a total sucker? She raised him for all these years, and now he won't even acknowledge her. I chimed in smoothly, and let me tell you, that was some serious drama right there. Teacher Chen looked at Lysander in complete awkwardness. She asked if he knew these two students. He sighed, "Yes, we are old acquaintances." Lysander obviously couldn't let Teacher Chen believe us. He furrowed his brow, putting on an act. However, there are some misunderstandings between us. That's why he left the sentence unfinished with a calm, mature expression, acting like the bigger man. Highly convincing, she totally bought his act. Teacher Chen smiled warmly again, sounding incredibly eager to please. She cooed. I knew Teacher Croft couldn't be the kind of person they described. Fair maidens and gentlemen. Lysander was undeniably handsome, cultured, and elegant. Just walking around campus, he could easily make the hearts of 80% of the single female staff flutter. Teacher Chen was naturally one of them. Finnegan covered his mouth and laughed mockingly. Lysander, hearing that? Doesn't your face burn with shame? Oh. Wait. Your skin is thicker than a vault door. We wouldn't even be able to tell if you were blushing. With Finnegan and me tag-teaming him, the roasts were absolutely brutal. Lysander's face cycled rapidly between green and white. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. No matter how he tried to spin things, he was at a massive disadvantage. He took a deep breath and looked at Teacher Chen, his eyes turning slightly red. Teacher Chen, thank you for showing me the way. It is getting late. You should go eat. Let them say whatever they want. I don't mind. With that, he stepped toward me, clearly planning to sit. Teacher Chen immediately grabbed his arm, looking deeply anxious. Teacher Croft, why are you sitting here letting them insult you? She then turned her furious glare toward me and Finnegan. What major are you even in? This is Teacher Croft, the new instructor for the pharmacy department. Have you studied all these years just to show zero respect for your teachers? I completely ignored her, just sneering coldly at Lysander. He was totally taking advantage of Seraphina's absence, using poor teacher Chen as his new meat shield. I saw right through his act. He literally can't survive without hiding behind a woman. We are clinical medicine students. You are not a clinical medicine teacher, are you? Then you have absolutely no authority over us. Finnegan has been a rebel since childhood and absolutely hates being disciplined. He certainly wasn't going to hold back just because she has the title of teacher. Teacher Chen was only from the nursing department. No matter how far she stretched her authority, she had zero right to discipline clinical med students. A flash of deep embarrassment crossed her face. But standing right in front of Lysander, she couldn't afford to look weak. She bit the bullet and snapped back. Even if I am not your department teacher, you are still students and I am a teacher. I have every right to discipline you. I don't want to argue with you anymore. Discipline us all you want. But can we just choose to ignore you? Finnegan picked up his chopsticks, his face dripping with sarcasm. I have never seen a college teacher stick their nose so far into other people's business. Why don't you just grab a needle and thread and sew our mouths shut? That way, your beloved Teacher Croft won't suffer any grievances. He bluntly exposed Teacher Chen's crush on Lysander, leaving her instantly mortified. Lysander shot her a quick look, his brow furrowing slightly in distaste. If he had to marry a woman like her, he would be a punching bag forever, stuck in a pathetic, lowly existence. Only Seraphina could elevate him to the top of the social food chain, forcing everyone to respect him. Therefore, he absolutely had to win this war. He simply could not afford to lose to me. Teacher Chen didn't dare say another word to me or Finnegan, terrified we would spit out more embarrassing secrets and make Lysander lose even more face. So she turned to Lysander and said gently, Teacher Croft, they are just kids, don't stoop to their level. Especially with your status, it would lower your value. What status exactly? I smiled, asking meaningfully. A pretty boy, or an overage college student with a sugar mommy? He snapped, please watch your mouth. Lysander was genuinely furious now, his tone incredibly harsh. Just like Teacher Chen said, I am a teacher. Please show some respect. I shrugged, wearing a highly punchable smile. I was just asking a question, I didn't say you were. There is no need to get so defensive. But how could he not be? If he didn't act defensive, he couldn't easily trick everyone into thinking our accusations were completely false. Finnegan rested his chin on his hand and grinned at Teacher Chen. Teacher Chen, don't you agree? These two are completely unreasonable and entirely out of line. I honestly do not get how two students with such trash character got into medical school. You are a total embarrassment to this university. Finnegan looked over, mouthed the word woof, and I knew exactly what he meant. We both burst out laughing. Talk about a textbook simp. Honestly, Lysander really had some serious talent. Anywhere he went, he reaped a harvest of loyal followers who defended him without any boundaries. But it was not really surprising. After all, the guy was undeniably handsome. God-tier looks. But having a dark past always puts you at a massive disadvantage when standing right in front of people who know your dirty secrets. Against just me, he might survive. But add Finnegan? No chance. He was losing this fight, no matter how hard he struggled. Originally, I wanted to clear the air between us so we could actually get along down the road. Since you clearly do not want that, I have nothing left to say. I have done my part, so good luck to you both. Lysander stood up. Teacher Croft, you've been treated so unfairly. Seeing her crush made Finnegan annoyed. He said coldly, Teacher Chen, that handsome young Master Croft right there was actually born in a dirt-poor mountain village. His current outfit costs tens of millions, maybe even more, because that watch on his wrist is a rare limited edition. You cannot even put a price tag on it. I will give you the brand. Look it up. Tell me, do you still think I am insulting him? We are literally just stating facts. Exactly, I chimed in with a wicked smile. Teacher Chen's face drastically changed, since we had laid it out so crystal clear. But let's be real, if she still doubted us, she was either hopelessly dense or totally blinded by his handsome face. But Teacher Chen had only just met Lysander. It was a shallow crush, not some deep emotional bond. She gave Lysander a long, conflicted look, then turned around and quickly walked away. Lysander went pale, dead silent. He just stood rooted to the spot for a long time. Young Master Croft, I know you were just eager to settle yesterday's score, but you really should have used your head and checked if Finnegan Locke went to the same school as me first. After all, he is your ultimate kryptonite. And I am his kryptonite now, too. Lysander just does not know it yet. I did not need to check, and calling Finnegan my kryptonite is giving him way too much credit. Lysander scoffed. Besides, I am not here to get even. I am actually going to teach at Valmont University starting today. Bumping into each other is bound to happen eventually. I only stopped by to say hello. What kind of teacher are you anyway? Absolute comedy. Finnegan looked incredibly sarcastic. Let me ask you something, did you even study medicine overseas? He stared Lysander down, waiting for a quick answer. Lysander froze. Recovering his cool, he calmly replied, I have a pharmacist license. I am totally qualified to teach in the pharmacy department. He dodged the question entirely. Finnegan was honestly impressed by his sheer mental thick skin. Can you believe this? Even when he was totally busted with zero ground to stand on, he still acted this calm. Do you not realize that standing there desperately trying to bluff your way out in front of us just makes you look like a massive clown? I checked my watch. Done. If I were you, I would have bailed ages ago, to save some dignity, instead of hanging around until lunch is almost over. Let us go. I stood up and nodded to Finnegan, signaling that it was time to move. We threw our arms around each other and swaggered right past Lysander. Lysander stood there, glaring with pure poison at our backs. He was grinding his teeth so hard they almost shattered from pure rage. In the past, I was always weak and submissive around him, never once daring to cross him. 5 years is a long time. It can easily reshape everything, including a person's entire personality. He was not totally shocked that I changed, but he just could not accept it. A wealthy kid who used to need permission just to breathe was suddenly throwing massive attitude in his face, especially when my mocking eyes saw right through his act. He completely lost his cool. He desperately wanted to deny the fact that a privileged kid could just hold their head high and live completely recklessly. Just like Finnegan Locke did. He shut his eyes tight,